But first, you are in for a real treat. You know, folklorists can archive the traditional stories, and historians can detail the lives of important people like poet Paul Laurence Dunbar. But it takes a true artist to breathe life into those stories so they become as rich, as accessible, and most of all, as entertaining as Mitch Capel makes them. Mitch began performing and writing when he was just 12 years old, and now he performs at storytelling festivals all across the country. He's performed at the Kennedy Center, the Smithsonian Folklife Festival, and even at the inauguration of President Obama. Please help me welcome a true national treasure, Mitch Capel.
Thank you very much. How's everybody doing? Wonderful festival, wonderful weather. It couldn't get no better than this. Paul Laurence Dunbar was an African-American poet born in 1872 and made transition in 1906. He wrote many volumes of poetry, many novels. He wrote short stories. He wrote plays. He was a brilliant, brilliant writer, only to be on this planet 34 years. One of my favorite love stories of his, and Reggie mentioned the word spelling, is called The Spelling Bee. And you have to remember, this is way before we have spelling bees now. This was spelling bees way back in the day. I never shall forget the night my papa hitched up Dobbin, and all us youngsters clambered in and down the road went bobbing to school, where we was kept at work in every kind of weather, but where that night a spelling bee was calling us together. It was one of heaven's banner nights. The stars was all a-glitter. The moon was shining like the hand of God had just then lit her. The ground was white with spotless snow. The blast was sort of stinging, and underneath our roundabouts, you bet our hearts was ringing. See, that spelling bee had been the talk of many a precious moment. The youngsters was all wild to see just what the precious show meant. And we whose years was in their teens was little less desirous of getting to the meeting so's our sweethearts could admire us. So on we went, so anxious for to satisfy our mission that Papa had to box our ears to smother our ambition. But boxing ears was too short work to hinder our arriving. He just turned around and smacked us all and kept right on the driving. Well, soon the schoolhouse hove in sight, the windows beaming brightly. The sound of laughing reached our ears and voices talking lightly. It filled us up so full and big that I just bet $1 'twant a fella there but felt the strain upon his collar. So down we jumped, and in we went, as sprightly as you make 'em, but something grabbed us by the knees and straight began to shake 'em. For once inside that lighted room, our feelings took a scanter and scurried to the 0 mark as quick as Tam O'Shanter. For there was crowds of people there, both sexes and all stations. Why, it looked like the whole town had come and brought all their relations. The first I saw was Nettie Gray. I thought that girl was dearer than gold, and when I got a chance, you bet I edged up nearer. And Farmer Dobbs's girl was there, the one that Jim was sweet on, and Cyrus Jones and Mandy Smith and Faith and Patience Deaton. Parson Brown and Lawyer Jones was present all attention, and piles of other folks too numerous to mention. The master rose and briefly said, "Good friends, dear Brother Crawford, to spur the pupils' minds along, a little prize is offered. To him who spells the best tonight, or it may be heard, no telling, he offers as a just reward this precious book on spelling." It was this little blueback spelling book, had fancy scarlet trimming. We boys divided with our eyes, so did the girls and women. He held it up where all could see, then on the table set it, and every speller in the house felt mortal bound to get it. At his command, we fell in line, prepared to do our duty, outspell the rest, set them down, and carry home the booty. 'Twas then the merry times began. The blunders and the laughing, the nudges and the nods and winks and stale good-natured chaffing. Old Uncle Hiram Dane was there, the closest man a-living, whose only bugbear seemed to be the dreadful fear of giving. His beard was long, his hair unkempt, his clothes all bare and dingy. Now it wasn't 'cause the man was poor, but just so mortal stingy. And there he sat by Sally Riggs, a-smiling and a-smirking, with all his children left at home a-digging and a-working. A widower he was, and Sal was thinking that she'd wing him. I reckon he was wondering what them rings of hern could bring him. And when the spelling test commenced, he up and took his station, a-spelling with the best of them to beat the very nation. And when he spelled some youngster down, he turned and look at Sally and say, "The teaching nowadays can't be a no great valley." But true enough, the adage says pride walks in slippery places. For soon a thing occurred that put a smile on all our faces. The laughter just kept rippling round, and teacher couldn't quell it, 'cause when they give out the word charity, old Hiram couldn't spell it. But laughing's catching, and it throws some others off their bases, and folks have missed the very words what seem to fit their cases. Why, fickle little Jesse Lee come near the house upsetting by putting in a double K to spell the word coquetting. And when it come to Cyrus Jones, it tickled me all over, him setting up the Mandy Smith and got sat down on lover. And Parson Brown, whose sermons were too long for toleration, caused lots of smiles by missing when they give out condensation. But Lawyer Jones, of all grown men, did surely look the gonest when he found out that he forgot to put a H in honest. Well, one by one they give it up. The big words kept a landing till me and Nettie Gray was left, the only ones a standing. 'Twas then my inward strife began. I guess my mind was petty. See, I did so want this spelling book, but then to spell down Nettie just sort of went against my grain. I somehow couldn't do it. When I get a notion fixed, I'm great on sticking to it. So when they give the next word out, I hadn't ought to tell it, but then 'twas all for Nettie's sake. I missed so she could spell it. She spelled the word and looked at me so loving like and mellow. I tell you, it sent 100 pins a shooting through a fella. Of course, I had to stand the laughing and the joking of the fellas, but when they handed her this spelling book, I vow I wasn't jealous. We sung a hymn. Then Parson Brown dismissed us like he oughta. For law, he learned a thing or two and made his blessing shorter. It was late and cold when we got out. But Nettie liked cold weather, and so did I, so we agreed to just walk home together. We both were silent for words. We neither had a surplus, till she spoke out quite sudden like, "You missed that word on purpose." Well, I declare it frightened me. At first I tried denying, but Nettie, she just smiled and smiled. She knew that I was lying. Says her, "This book is yourn by right." Says I, "It never could be. You," and there I stuck. And well, she understood me. So we agreed that later on, when life had give us tether, we'd settle down, join our lots, and own this book together. Thank you. People say you should tell more personal stories. Here's a personal story. Storytelling has taken me all over the world. I've met some very wonderful people, just like I'm meeting here again. Met some wonderful people. One time I was downtown Fayetteville, North Carolina. I was doing some storytelling at the Dogwood Festival, I believe, and This young man came up to me, and I used to date his daughter. When he was a little bitty kid, I used to thump him on the head. I mean, not his daughter, I'm sorry, his sister. I used to date his sister when he was a little bitty kid. I used to thump him on his head, give him a quarter to get out of the house. So he was there, and he came up, and we reconnected, and we started talking. I live in Pinehurst, Southern Pines, North Carolina. It's the golf capital. We have 39 golf courses in a 15-mile radius, about to have 40. And what's not a golf course is a horse farm. It's beautiful country. So we started talking about golf, and he said, yeah, you play? Yeah, I play. Let's play sometimes. Cool. We got together, and next thing you know, we meet to play some golf, and he has a Michelob golf bag with Michael Jordan's name on it. I said, man, where'd you get that bag? He said, I went to Carolina with Jordan. We're very close friends, da-da-da-da. I was like, that's cool. He said, next time he's in town, we'll play some golf. I was like, bet. He called me about 2 weeks later, and he said, man, meet me at number 7 golf course, one of my favorite courses. I'm out there putting, I'm on the green putting, waiting for people to come, and I see a black Porsche pull up with license tag 23. I said, oh, Jordan's playing with us, cool. Now everybody's running to him. I'm older than he is. He has to respect me. He's got to come to me. He had just won his first NBA National Basketball Association. He just won his first championship, but still, I'm older. So I stayed on the green, I waited. Sure enough, he came up and introduced himself to me. And you playing with us? Yeah, cool, boom. So we played golf that day. It was a lot of fun. After we finished playing golf, he said, man, I'm hungry. I said, my mom's the best cook in the state. No problem. Got on the phone in the pro shop, called my mom, said, bring some friends by, no problem. It was about 6 of us went by my mom's house. She put a meal together just like that. So when I told him to come on by my mom's house, he's like, first he said, you're not going to be calling everybody to come over. And I said, for what? He said, you're not going to be taking pictures. I said, of who? So anyway, he decided to come over to my parents' house. And we did. He ate. My mother fixed food. We did all this stuff. We had fun. We played cards. And then when my mother pulled out her camera, was taking pictures. I said, Mom, he don't want it. She said, he just ate all my food. I'm taking pictures. I'm sorry. So I got home that night, and I'm like, dang, I'm never starstruck or anything like that, but I just played golf with Michael Jordan. Pretty cool. Couldn't go to sleep. Got a pen and paper. I wrote this little poem. I said, I spent the day with MJ. We had a lot of fun. We hit some balls down narrow halls under a hot, hot sun. After pursuing pars, we hopped in cars and went to my parents' house, where we shoveled food, belly washers too, down hungry and thirsty mouths. We shot some pool and cut the fool, sat down to a table of cards, played bid whist, trying not to miss like we did those birdies and pars. We told some lies, 6 no, and before goodbyes, posed for a picture or two. The flash still on our grin, we said, let's do it again, for the chance to get even was due. I spent the day with MJ, not once did he take off and fly. Although he's Air Jordan in basketball, in life, he's just a down-to-earth and a heck of a nice guy. Hung out with him a lot of times after that, and never told him that poem. Maybe he'll hear it one day, I don't know. Never sent it to him, I never did anything with it. But another time I was in Fayetteville, and I was co-grand marshals in a parade with Muhammad Ali. And after the parade, I told some stories, and he took a liking to me. And he started inviting me to fights, and I would go to fights with him and hang out with him in Las Vegas and different areas. And then another friend of ours, Ali Khan out of Washington, D.C., started a Champ cookie. So Muhammad hired me to be in charge of distributing his cookies throughout the Southeast. And it was called Champ Cookies, had his picture on it, his autograph on it. And I was traveling around trying to sell a black Muslim's cookie in the Piggly Wigglies in the South. It was a tough sell, trust me. But anyway, the reason he liked me, because when I first met him, I was asked to do some storytelling at this banquet that he was at. And I tried to figure out what I was going to do, so I took this story of Paul Dunbar's and I changed it around to make it like it was he and I. And so I made up the story that I grew up with Muhammad Ali, and we called him, you know, his name was Cassius Clay before he changed his name, but we had a nickname for him. We called him Zeke Johnson, because, you know, his little kid, he thought he was going to be like Jack Johnson, so we called him Zeke Johnson just to pick at him. And so that was how I set the story up. And this is how the story went. 'Twas 33 years ago when I was rather young, you know. I had my last and only fight about a girl one summer night. It was me and Ezekiel Johnson. Zeke and me been spatting about a week, each of us trying his best to show that he was Liza Jones's beau. We couldn't neither prove the thing, because she was fur too sharp to fling one over for the other one, and by so doing stopped the fun that we po chaps didn't have the sense to see she got at our expense, but that's the way a fella does, for boys is fools and always was. And when there's females in the game, well, I reckon they's about the same. Well, Zeke and me went on that way, fussed and crawled day by day, while Liza minded not the fuss. She just kept her going with both of us, till we po chaps, that Zeke and me, was just plumb mad with jealousy. Well, for a time, we showed our places, only showed by frowning faces, and looked said, well, how mean and boded, how full of fight we both was loaded. At last it come, the thing broke out, and this is how it come about. One night, 'twas fair, you'll all agree, I got Eliza's company, and leaving Ezekiel in the lurch, I went trotting off with her to church. And just as we had took our seat, Eliza looking fair and sweet, why, I just could not help but grin when Ezekiel come a-bouncing in as fierce as the law allows. He'd just been up to Liza's house to find her gone, then come to church to have this end put to his search. Well, I guess I laughed that meeting through. And not a mortal word I knew of what that preacher preached or read or what that choir sung or said. Because every time I turned my head, I couldn't scarcely help but see Ezekiel had his eye on me. And he'd have sort of turn and twist and grind his teeth and shake his fist. I laughed a lot. The whole church seen us know that something was between us. Well, meeting out, we started home. I sort of feeling what would come. We just got out when up stepped Zeke and said, excuse me, but I want to speak to you a minute. Sir, said I, a nudging Liza on the sly, and laughing in my sleeve with glee, I asked her please to pardon me. We walked away a step or two just to get out of Liza's view. Then Zeke said, I want to know if you think you're Liza's beau, and I'm gonna go to let her go home with such a chump as you. And I said, Bo, you bet I do. Then Ezekiel sneered and said that he did not want to hinder me. But then he allowed the girl was his, and he guessed he knowed his biz, and that he wasn't feared of all my kin with all my friends and chums throwed in. Now some other thing he mentioned there, that no born man could no ways bear or think of trying to calmly stand, even if Ezekiel had been the biggest man in town, and not that little runt, time of labor ever stunt. And so I let my fist go, bam! Thought I most now finished him. But Ezekiel, he didn't take it so. He just ducked down and dodged my blow. Then he come back at me so hard, well, I guess I must have hurt the yard. Or split the grass plot where I fell, and sakes alive, it hurt me. Well, it wouldn't have been so bad, you see, but that boy just kept hitting me. And I hit back and kicked and pawed, but seemed to mostly error I clawed. While Ezekiel used his science well of making every motion tell. He hit and punched, why goodness land, seemed like the boy had a dozen hands. Well, after a while, they stopped the fuss. Someone kindly parted us, all beat and cuffed and clawed and scratched and needing both our faces patched. Each started home a different way. And what Eliza do you say? Why, Eliza, little humbug, Derna, 'cause she'd gone home with Hiram Turner. Thank you. I asked Muhammad one time, I said, man, is there anybody you didn't fight you wish you could have fought? He said, yeah, Rocky. I said, oh, man, you would have beat him easily. He said, only if he let me write the script. Right on top of his head. Smart guy. So I started this journey in storytelling about 40 years ago. And about 40 years ago, I was selling cars. I was in the car business. And I was ready to get out of the car business because I'd been in it about 9 or 10 years. I was told Toyotas for about 7 years, easy sell. People show up, man, no problem. And when customers come, I knew they were either bringing me some food or bringing me another customer or something. They were happy. And then I switched to the Ford dealership, and I worked there for about 3 years. But I was ready to just get out of the car business altogether because you have to live on a car lot to make money. Because they're cutthroat, man. If you ain't there, somebody looking for you, that's your problem. They sold them a car, you weren't there. But anyway, I was getting out of the car business, and the general manager of the Ford dealership, he said, Mitch, you are too good of a salesman. You're too good for the business. I want to make you the regional director of Ford Motor Company in the Southeast. I said, okay, Don, whatever. He said, I'm going to fly to Detroit, have the interview. We're going to get you this job. I want to keep you in the car business. I said, cool. So I flew to Detroit. I had the meeting with the gentleman there, and he said, hey, look, no worries, you got the job. The only problem is the gentleman whose place you were going to replace, he's decided to stay another year. He's not going to retire. So we're going to send you to California for a year, and then when he retires, we'll bring you back to North Carolina, and you can work the southeast part of the United States. I said, cool. So I'm flying on Piedmont Airlines, great airlines. I'm flying on Piedmont Airlines, and I'm on the flight coming back, and I'm talking to the flight attendants. They're talking to me. What do you do? I said, I'm at a crossroads. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. They said, you want to do this? I said, nah, I don't want to do this. He said, no, really, you want to do this? I said, nah, I don't want to do this. He said, no, really, this is great. I said, well, I always thought about being a pilot. He said, well, if all you have to do is put your foot in the door, they will train you to be a pilot, and boom, you're there. And I said, okay, cool. Thought about it. Got home that night, thought about it. Next morning, I literally was digging a hole in my yard to plant an azalea. And I dug up a Piedmont Airlines unaccompanied minor button. Came right out of the ground. I took it as an omen. I said, I'm going to work for Piedmont Airlines. So I wrote them a letter, and they sent me back. They brought me in for 2 interviews, and I was hired just like that. March of 1985. I started storytelling at exactly the same time. And the storytelling was taking off. But the airlines was great, and I stayed there. I've been there 40 years. I ain't left yet. I don't tell people that, but I've been there 40 years, so I work the minimum. I'm only there 2 or 3 days a month. It's sweet, it's gravy. I still have my benefits. So, one time we had a snowstorm. It was really bad. We were delayed for hours. I was bored to death. I took out a pen and paper, and I rewrote the taxi out announcement. If you've ever flown, you've heard this announcement 1,000 times. Boring, but I rewrote it into a rhyme, and this is how it went. Ladies and gentlemen, if we could have your attention to just a few things that we got to mention, we hope that you and your luggage are as ready as can be. Now sit back, relax, but stay where you can see. All seats and trays should be in the upper lock position when we walk through the cabin. We like to see them in that condition. When the no smoking fasten seatbelt signs are lit, we'll hope you buckle up and not have a nicotine fit. Now, since you're traveling on a Boeing, not a Greyhound or a Ford, watch as our flight attendants show the safety on board. See, your seatbelts are of the metal-to-metal kind. You put the flat into the buckle, pull the strap a tight bind. If you need to get up and you want them released, just lift up on the buckle, pull out the flat piece. Now, your seat bottom cushions your flotation device. If we land on water, in a swamp, or on ice, just pull that bottom cushion from your seat, place your arms through the straps, and kick your shoes off your feet. Now, the cabin's pressurized for your comfort and care, and it's no big deal breathing pressurized air, but in the unlikely event the cabin depressurizes, oxygen mask will fall, and it's no big crisis. Just reach up and pull a mask to your face, relax, breathe normally, your regular pace. Now the seat back pocket's got this blue and white card. Take a moment, read over it. It's not very hard. It gives you all of this and other information, as well as location and operation of the emergency exits that are found on board. We'll point them out. Again, this ain't no Ford. The forward entry door by which you boarded, the galley service door where food and drinks are imported, window exits located over the wings, and service doors in the rear where they import the same things. Now, we'll be dimming the cabin light for evening travel. If you need extra light, don't you get unraveled, because just above your head without doing much hunting is a lamp, air vent, and a call button. Not a seat back pocket, got the Space magazine. It's got some real nice writing and some real pretty scenes of some of the places that we take folks to see. If you like, take it with you. They're comp. They're comp. Oh, shucks. They're free. Now, there's anything we can do to put your flight more at ease? All you have to do is ask. But you got to say please. So right after I wrote that, we were on a layover, and back then on the cruise, the pilots and the flight attendants, we all stayed together for 4 days if it was a 4-day trip. So we were all out to dinner, and the flight attendants, I had told them after I wrote it, they said, oh my God, you got to tell the pilots, tell the pilots. So I'd already memorized it. I just, like I said, I used to have a photographic memory. I'm about out of film. But I had memorized it, and I told it to them at dinner. And the captain was like, I want you to do that the rest of the trip, every leg. I said, man, you're going to get me fired. No. He said, no, I got your back. Anything, somebody give you some grief, I want you to do that every leg. So the next day I did it. The captain and the first officer had rewritten all their announcements into rhymes. So the next 4 days, we're flying around, we're rhyming all over the place. If you ever get on my flight, after they do the demo now, it's all electronic and stuff. You might hear me, I hear people come run to the back of the plane and say, I knew that was you back there. Because what I always say is, ladies and gentlemen, we got a pretty full flight going this evening, so with that in mind, I'd like to add my 2 cents by saying that life is like a journey, taken on a plane with a row of passengers at each window pane. I may sit beside you all the journey through, or I may sit elsewhere never knowing you. But if fate should mark me to sit at your side, let's be pleasant travelers. It's so short a ride. Then I say, where's the love? And they clap. Then I say, oh, you shouldn't have. Thank you, you guys are too kind. And then I say, on behalf of American Airlines, appreciate you flying with us. Hope you enjoy your flight. And this is not one of your pilots. Thank you very much.